My name is Carol Bennett. I'm editor of interiors editor. I was going to give myself a rise then. I'm interiors editor of Country and Townhouse magazine, and absolutely delighted to be here with Chloe Bullock of Materialise, Simone Suss of Studio Suss, and Jex Stone of Personal Abode. Chloe, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hello everyone, I'm Chloe Bullock and I've been running Materialise Interiors for 20 years next month. I'm a co-founder of Interior Design Declares, and I'm now a BID director, which is wonderful. It's lovely to be here with you all.
Simone.
Hi everyone, I'm Simone Suss. I run Studio Suss, an interior design company, and I am also a co-founder of Interior Design Declares and currently studying a master's in regenerative design.
Jex.
And I am Jex of Personal Abode Interiors, concentrating on well-being and vegan lifestyles. And I'm also a co-founder of Interior Design Declares.
Which more of later. So we are talking about why interiors must declare a call to action for the interior design industry to address the climate and biodiversity crises head on. Chloe, let's start with you. Sustainability. I'm almost sighing as I say it. It's such an overused term. What does sustainability mean to you? And tell us a little bit about being a vegan interior designer.
So, sustainability to me kind of is a bit of a checks and balances, kind of being conscious of the impacts, the negative impacts of your work and your life, and trying to be less bad. So this word sustainability has been around for a while. I think we need to be further than that now, because being less bad, we're kind of going past some major bad sort of milestones in terms of the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis. So we need to do some more giving back to nature rather than just taking. And 30 years ago I was working for 10 years for the Body Shop as a designer, and they were very conscious of all of their impacts. And they were very careful about not using animal products as well as testing on animals. And so I'm just really conscious of all of where our resources come from. If I can use alternatives, I'd much rather do that. And I really don't want to borrow from future generations as well, because currently we're using natural resources. We're 1.7 planets worth of consumers consuming a year, or probably more by now. So we kind of can't go on like this, and I just do it in my work, and I try and do it in my lifestyle as well.
Absolutely. Simone, what upsets you most as a designer in terms of waste and use of chemicals that you see in the industry?
So we, as the UK throws away 22 million pieces of furniture every year, which is insane. And I do think that we have this attitude as interior designers that we kind of come in and we just need to rip everything out and start again. And that is not a very sustainable or regenerative or healthy way to be. But it's how we have our business models. You know, we are charging commissions, so we're economically it makes sense for designers to be doing that as well. But I just think we need to have a rethink about what we're doing, and start with the question of, well, how do you want to feel? What can we reuse, as opposed to just ripping everything out? Because when someone goes in and starts ripping stuff out, they literally then just send it to skips and it ends up in landfill. And actually there's other ways of doing it. So if someone doesn't want to keep what they're holding, what's in their current house or office or whatever kind of space it is, then there are resale platforms, there are charity shops, there are other ways to get rid of that furniture. But really we should start with, how can we keep what we've got and still have it fit the brief?
Absolutely. And Jex, do you think it's a lack of knowledge or lack of accountability? Do you think people just, sometimes interior designers are not thinking about what's happening to the things that they're throwing away?
I think it's a matter of habit and following what we've done in the past, unfortunately. Not using our imaginations enough. and also not being accountable for our actions, because we just seem to think about the effect on the homeowners or the business that we're designing for, but everything that we make and everything that we consume, the whole planet has been affected, and we need to kind of think about the impact around the world rather than just in one location.
And Chloe, I'm interested in you being a vegan interior designer. Do people come to you because of that, or is it kind of a byproduct of it's sort of you're a brilliant interior designer? Oh, and by the way, you're a vegan.
Yeah, so when I left Body Shop, I just carried on doing everything in the same way, running my business in the same way, working the same way. So I was just doing it quietly without saying anything. I just didn't show leather, which potentially has a lot of toxic chemicals involved. I didn't show wool. I used alternatives and regenerative materials where I can. But because I was the first one to go on this course that Jex and I took, it was a bit of a
I should say, because Jex, you're a vegan interior designer as well.
And so I'm a sole practitioner. I just thought I'll just talk about it. So I became known for it, but there's so many of us that just do it anyway. It's so possible to do. It's this habit thing. We don't need to keep using these things. The perception of natural isn't always as natural as we'd like it to be, and it isn't as natural because it might have been 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So kind of have to examine things currently.
And Jex, have you been impressed by the innovativeness of new materials that are being launched?
Yes and no.
No, that's interesting. I mean, what is it that puts you off sometimes?
I see that there's a lot of innovation. I don't see it in a practical way, and I don't find that there's enough trust in the new materials to say that they're going to stand the test of time compared to materials that we're used to using.
Yeah. And Simone, you were doing a master's in regenerative design. So you're not a vegan practitioner.
No.
So just explain a little bit about your style of interior design and a little bit about the masters you're doing.
Okay, sure. So regenerative design is very much about how can we regenerate the planet, how can we regenerate the communities, how can we regenerate nature. So it's looking at natural systems and ecology and biology, and looking at human systems through sociology, and then looking at design thinking and thinking, well, what is the way that we can solve this mess that we're in. We all work in systems, and so looking at the whole system. And so that's been really interesting, that's really informing my practice. I'm not a vegan designer, but I appreciate vegan products, and I would not use a vegan product. I'm very happy to use vegan products, but I'm also happy to use products like wool and reclaimed leather, or leather if it's kind of on the right item at the right time from the right source. But I think the key for all of us is that we're conscious of where our interior design products are coming from, and where the materials from those products are coming from, how those things are then being made. So whatever material it is we're using, what are the chemicals that are in it, where's it coming from, is it ethically being done? There are, sometimes leather is a waste material from the, oh my, there's a mouse. Lost my train of thought. Sorry.
There was just one to be involved too.
Anyway, so my point with leather is sometimes it is a byproduct of the farming industry, and so it maybe is, less inhumane, for example. So there are just other ways of looking at things, but I think part of what we do at Interior Design Decorex is that we all appreciate that everyone has a different perspective, just as you were talking earlier. We've all got different perspectives, and it's complicated.
Sure. Chloe, is there any legislation regarding good practice and when waste, and where if you're going to throw a lot of stuff away, how you throw it away, where you throw it away? Are there any kind of help for interior designers?
none that's particularly evident. I mean, I hear about, from the sustainability community about how large companies are having to have certain commitments that are having an effect on their suppliers, so will all trickle down to us eventually. But currently, legislation seems to be supporting the opposite of what we're doing. So, use of fire retardant chemicals, and still testing paint ingredients on animals. This whole VAT, if you pull down the building, and if you were to retrofit a building, you have to pay 20% back on it. If you pulled it down and started fresh, as you discussed in your podcast, which I recommend everyone to listen to, you have to pay 20% back.
So in fact, the industry is not being held to all. Really.
No, and there's a lot of us doing voluntary things, like you and I are both working for B Corp companies. That's a sort of voluntary thing. I want to be accountable, and I want that to be publicly accountable. But yeah, the legislation isn't supporting us. It's not supporting innovation, or from what I can't see it.
There is in Europe there is legislation coming through that's more about fashion. So people talk about fast fashion a lot more than they're talking about fast furniture. And how we're kind of slipping under the radar, I don't really understand, but we are slipping under the radar. So there is legislation coming through in Europe where there is an onus on European companies to talk about their supply chain. So you've got a furniture passport, an item passport for clothing, and maybe that would then eventually move to furniture, I'm not sure. But then also the manufacturer is responsible for what happens to the end of life. So I think that's going to be a real sea change, so hopefully that will filter through to interiors in the UK as well.
So Jex, when it comes to clients, things like foam, I mean, is foam the massive no-no?
For me, yes, it is. It's a no-no. Clients, not so much. They aren't particularly educated in what it means to purchase foam, or there isn't the infrastructure quite that you can have that much furniture without foam anyway. Even if you avoid it in some aspects, it sort of creeps in elsewhere. But I find the client I serve, they are open to different possibilities. But because I'm vegan, the alternatives like wool is out of the question. Then I kind of have to look back at using foam sometimes, and it's hard to weigh up what I want to do.
It's a balance.
I try and kind of, before looking at anything new, I would say that I'm a circular economy designer first, and then when I come to selection, I've got, I don't want to use animal products, things like that, but I will always look at what can I reuse. Can we reuse a sofa? Can we have it recovered? Whatever's inside it, let's get the full use out of it. So yeah, sometimes we can get around it that way.
Well, I would, but most of my clients only have a pillow and don't have any furniture.
And also, it's about wanting to save money. I mean, that's a very big part of it. When you've got a very small budget, it's quite. I guess it's more. There are more challenges. You have to be more creative.
Yes, I think. I don't think it's a bad thing that designers are pushed to be more creative, to be honest. I think sometimes we do a little bit too much copy and paste, and if we just pushed ourselves, okay, I can see the mouse as well.
He's missed us. We'll carry on. Simone, just fill us in, because I know that you know about this, the fire retardants that are put in sofas, and how our fire regulations differ from America and the EU. Just give us a little.
In a nutshell, the UK has the most stringent fire retardancy regulations in the world. So that means that when we buy an upholstered piece of furniture, generally about 20% of the volume of that furniture is actually chemicals to make that piece of furniture less flammable. So it's safe to use in in people's houses, and that then affects how it can be resold. If you take the labels off, for example, you then can't donate your sofa to a charity, so that's stopping the circular economy. Also, the chemicals are having an impact on our health, so they off-gas, and that's affecting people's respiratory systems, endocrinology systems. And they've just changed the law now so that baby products don't need these fire retardancy toxins in them, and so hopefully that will be widened so that it becomes more across the whole industry. We're going to need less chemicals, but really we need to be looking at alternatives to foam so that we need less chemicals, so that no one wants a flammable sofa, but the regulations are so kind of incumbent on people. The match test is so difficult unless you've got lots of toxins on it. However, if you use more natural materials, then natural materials are inherently more fire retardant. So actually, the whole system is a little bit broken, because if we started using natural materials, we wouldn't need so many fire retardancy regulations. Sorry, we wouldn't need so many chemicals to make our items pass the fire retardancy regulations. So it's that kind of, it's another kind of way that the system is not geared up to incentivize people to be doing the right thing.
Yeah, go on, James.
But I also think, although we've had made a good start in working with baby products first, but we have to be honest, babies aren't sleeping in their cots all day. They're on the sofas, they're on the floor, and they are the closest still to the floor when they're crawling, and they're picking up all those fibres in their lungs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It just they say that the indoor air pollution is worse than outdoor air pollution at the moment.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Chloe, let's talk about carbon accountability. Does everything have a measure? Is it all carbon accountable? And how do we measure it?
Everything we do in our life has a carbon value, and our industry are getting better at carbon valuing things that we have. So the software that I use has I can add in the carbon value and calculate it for a project, but there's not a lot of suppliers that are giving me a carbon value per chair, but there are some, like Orange Box have been doing it for ages. There's ones out there, and there are the same for finishes and floors and things like that. We need more of that, because if we can value a whole project and offer options, and I'm not going to remember this properly, but like the land footprint of hemp versus cotton versus wool is something like how much land you need, 2 square metres for hemp, something like 30 for cotton, and then sort of 3.6 thousand metres for wool. It's the same kilo of fabric. And then when you look at the water footprint of cotton, if you were to buy organic cotton instead of regular cotton, the water footprint is greatly reduced when you use organic. So just knowing things like that when you're choosing things kind of opens doors, and you can make some big savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And Simone, you talk about economics of scale. What do you mean by that?
So economics of scale is basically, economics is about supply and demand. So if we want to bring the price down of something, then more of us need to be buying it, and then that brings the operating cost down, and that means that it makes more economies of scale. And I think the issue that we have at the moment is that the companies doing really good, healthy interior products are not necessarily the biggest companies. They're the small niche makers, and so their operating costs are higher. So therefore, as designers, if we are then supporting our local businesses that are doing really good things, for example, I can see email in front of me, Sparkle Bell Lighting, they make everything in Brighton. I think like 80% of your pieces, you told me, were made within a couple of 100 miles, right? So like all of their supply chain. B Corp, amazing company. More designers need to, more manufacturers need to be kind of taking a leaf out of Ema's book, so that, and really shouting about it, so that designers become more aware of them. I mean, you know, I would much rather give, and I do, buy a lot from Ema than someone that's making something over the other side of the world where I've got no idea where the supply chain is. So I think for economies of scale to really thrive, we need to be supporting our local economies, our local manufacturers.
Yeah. And Jex, are there impacts on the planet that we're not talking about? Things that you've been made aware of since you've been on this journey?
I think health really is the main thing. We often talk about interiors in terms of the visuals, but we have to recognise how much we're taking into our bodies. And I particularly pay attention to indoor air quality, the rise of allergies, cancers, and how our biology is changing because of all the chemicals that we've been using since the 1950s, and how that is changing our DNA. And I think that's not talked about enough.
Yeah, and presumably there are studies supporting that.
Studies are starting to come out. They're not fully there yet, and I would say they're probably more tested on men than women, which is no surprise. But I think as women go through so many changes, and we've only kind of just now, even in terms of our monthly products, realising that the chemicals that are leaking into our bodies are really changing how we show up in the world. So the more the research gets done, the more we can understand what's really happening, because if the research is so new, we don't know what's actually going to be happening in the future and that's happening in terms of having children, our decreased ability to have children, and what is happening to the children, what's coming up now, and how they can help the planet if they're not well.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon, just to change tack a little bit, charity shops, is there more that they could be doing to help the interior design world? Sometimes they can be a bit difficult when you're trying to take stuff to a charity shop, aren't they?
They can be, but I'm trying to be sympathetic that they have a certain amount of floor space, and furniture generally is really bulky items. And so that it's quite difficult. I mean, it would be great with the fire retardancy regulation, for example, if they'll only accept things that still have their label attached.
Yeah, which is never going to happen,
Which is really difficult, it makes things really difficult. You can kind of see why, right, from the regulation. So the regulation needs to change, I think, and then charity shops have a bit more free will to be able to take more things. Or I don't know if there's a way where there's a charity platform or any sort of platform where, I mean, I guess there's eBay, but where people can list things that don't necessarily need to go to the charity shop, then need to be taken to the person's house. So I think if we could use kind of resale platforms a bit more and take some pressure off the charity sector, because I think that charity shops do what they can, but it would be great if we could all do more.
And Jex, are the London boroughs, are they all around the country? Does each borough have a different rules when it comes to recycling and reuse, or is it pretty normal throughout, where when you work in different places?
No, every council is a law unto themselves and vary greatly. There are London boroughs who do recycling really bad, if at all. What also affects the ability to recycle is when there's strikes, because that's one thing that goes out the window, is the ability to collect your rubbish and to filter it out into the right place. I know that Birmingham City Council, which has gone bust, can't afford to do recycling, so even if people want to recycle, it's only if they have the ability to go to the recycling plants themselves that they can actually do it.
Yeah. Are there any boroughs that you can give a good shout out to?
the borough I live in is good.
Is that because you've hounded them?
It isn't actually. Lewis and Coexist is really good. They don't actually send much to landfill at all. They're one of the top, which is good to hear. And I don't particularly give them that much. I find other ways to do to dispose of anything, but yeah, they're not doing that at all. And they, which is good in terms of your food collections, which does make a big difference because there are London boroughs, including Tower Hamlets, that don't do waste food, and if the food is going into the regular waste, then that's increasing the toxins what's in the soil.
Okay, shout out to Lewisham.
I like it.
How do we change the mentality? How do we help the industry by changing things? I mean, so often we see, a show home or a project where there's furniture there and then the client comes in and says, we don't necessarily want it to look like that. Chloe, you've got something to say.
I feel very strongly that a lot of us are doing a lot of it anyway. I think we just need to do more of it. I think this whole being sort of frugal, we are pretty careful. Just the sheer fact that a client is engaged a designer to help them means it's going to be done more efficiently, less waste, fewer mistakes. I'd love everybody to sort of feel empowered that they are already doing it, and just to sort of be more inquisitive to our supply chains. I mean, I'm a sole practitioner, but I've been asking for years about FSC, sustainable timber, and finally, you're starting to get the answers, and it's becoming a lot more transparent around sustainable timber, for example. So I just think you all have the ability to ask questions, and if they hear from enough of us, it really will start to make change.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's every designer's responsibility to try and do a bit better, because it's not someone else's problem, it's all of our problems. And we all have that agency, we all have that capacity to interrogate our supply chains, really, and also think about what we're going to do with all the items that we're getting rid of at the start of the project. It's incumbent on us, I think, to educate ourselves and our clients to do better for people and planet.
I did actually I'm a service-only model of a designer, and 8 years ago I took that out of I took actually buying stuff out of my pricing model, yeah. It was when I was first involved with the local circular economy group, and I could just see that I'm being incentivised to buy more stuff, and so I just took it out. Occasionally there might be something, but generally the clients buy it, or I really, really scrutinise what they've already got, or I do really push back and say, you do not need a new floor that's going to completely disrupt your timescale, your costs. Let's just repair your floor, so that's something that happens regularly.
Jex, we'll end on a positive. What are the small, give us a clue, give us a top tip, the small wins that are going to have a big impact?
Spend more time listening and thinking. Literally costs nothing. Listen to what your clients are saying or what they're not saying, and start to think about it from the get-go, at concept stage, what you're doing, what you can eliminate, what you can redesign. I think those are the easiest steps to do.
And actually it's funny because so many designers, you talk about having a blank canvas, but actually what you're saying is don't look at it as a blank canvas. Look at it as what it is and how it can be improved.
Well, I look at it more of a jigsaw puzzle, and it's just refixing it.
And use our design thinking, which we've all been trained to do, to design around those things and make them look really good.
Simone?
Yeah, I agree. I think start with what you've got already and see what can fit the brief, and see if it just takes a little bit of creativity. Maybe they don't like the colour of the floor. Well, don't rip the floor out, just sand it down and restain it. Or find ways, just interrogate that supply chain, interrogate what's there a bit more, because nothing is as sustainable or regenerative as what's already there. So what can be worked with? at that moment. I think that's where we all just need to start, really.
Absolutely, and I need to highlight Chloe's book because she won't. She's too humble. She won't tell you about it, so I'm going to tell you about it. There are some copies here if you'd like some. And then, Jex, how do people sign up for Interior Design Declares?
Head to the website, enter a few details, and we will add you personally.
And what does it entail once you've signed up?
It takes a little bit of commitment from you to look at the resources, to pay attention to what's in the newsletter, which is very full of a lot of resourceful information. Yeah, I think those are the main things really, just to look and pay attention to what we put out there.
All about support. It's not about kind of judging. Nobody's marking anybody. It's just like we're exchanging things that we've all found helpful, making people aware of any resources that are out there. It's just really helping each other out. It's collaboration.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit of industry collaboration. So we've started doing a few more events now where we get to share ideas and hear how other people are working creatively to kind of solve the industry issues. And we're building a movement, and there's no set defined goal apart from we all want to live in a healthier planet. So if anyone wants to join us, please sign up.
Here, here. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, I just wondered, are there any known natural flame retardants, and what are the natural materials that are best to reduce?
Okay, so there are, the thing that uses the most flame retardants is foam. So people are looking for alternatives to foam. So hemp, horsehair, things are coming through production. Things are coming through. I know there's a lot of products being worked on. I know Delith Featherstone Dilk's a real specialist in this area. So if you look at her website, she'd be able to tell you. But I think that there are things coming through, but then they've got to be fire retardancy tested, and they've got to be this, and they've got to be that. So if we can use alternatives to foam, then we don't necessarily need to treat them with fire retardancy. And by using fabrics that have a high composition of natural materials, so wool, I'm not sure, cotton and linen, I don't think they're very fun. They're natural materials generally are, you need, yes, interliners, okay? So if you have an interliner, then you don't necessarily need the chemicals either. But again, it's about discussing it with the upholsterer or the furniture manufacturer, because there are ways around it.
I think you also have to pay attention to the fabric houses as well. Although something can be 100% cotton, it doesn't mean that there's no flame retardant built into it. So you have to be, just aware of what the real composition of materials are.
Any other question? Well, I'm sure these guys will still be here for a little while if you have any more questions. I know that I've learned a huge amount just kind of through our discussions prior to this, and it's really interesting and kind of uplifting to know that things are being done, but also quite shocking as to where we're kind of sitting and the amount that needs to be done. But anyway, hats off to you guys for banging the drum. Thank you so much.
Thank you.